all the heady heights he reached as a Beatle, John Lennon was an intensely human being. It's curious, of course, that such a pronouncement should have to be made when discussing the life of a contemporary composer, but such was the power and glory of his accomplishments that people often find it difficult to understand that he lived, tried, and died just like anyone else. There was, of course, significant magic to the man, which was far more deeply rooted in his rather ordinary suburban upbringing than any mischief he got up to later with LSD, the Maharishi, and the notorious Yoko. I've spent a lot of time just walking around John's old neighborhood in Woolton, and have come to the conclusion that, like the alchemist turning ordinary metals to gold, Lennon had the unique ability to distill his dreamy compositions from the breezy day-to-day hum of post-war Liverpool into the majestic brain candy we revere today. Standing for a minute by the shops on Penny Lane, the big red buses rush by, filled even today with tweedy-looking characters right out of an old 1930s J. Arthur Rank film. The suburban skies are indeed still mightily blue, with huge powder-puff clouds which roll by in an almost imperceptible parade. The little children, too, look especially mythical with their round faces, big sad eyes, and pale skin. The fact is, it's difficult to believe that anything has really changed much since a teenage John roamed the Allerton golf course, strumming his old acoustic on his way to Paul's, or sunk down in the long willowy grass in a vacant lot off Blomfield Road for a secret make-out session with buxom first girlfriend Barbara. Of all the places I'll remember in Lennon Land, Strawberry Fields is definitely not only the most obviously mystical, but so clearly a place of great inspiration and respite for the young, often lonely John. Like Mike McCartney told me many years ago on a whirlwind trip to the Holy Land on assignment for my first book, the Beatles are Liverpool, and Liverpool is the Beatles. Indeed, John Lennon's receptive intelligence, biting wit, and great art have a lot more to do with the Church of England's Sunday School, Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Men, and the English Music Hall than Yoko Ono's vacuous gobbledygook, or the artist's post-Beatle, political, avant-garde, self-indulgent ramblings. Even today, outside St. Peter's Church in Woolton Village, where John first met Paul, is a large sandstone monolith, thick at the bottom, then tapering off into eternity, which is inscribed only peace. A phrase John certainly bandies about in this rare collection of interviews, and one we should, of course, all do our best to honor today as well. In the meantime, sit back and enjoy the engaging philosophical perambulations of the very ordinary, incredibly complex, painfully conservative, outrageously artsy, terminally good-natured, trusting, and amusing late John Winston Lennon.
That was fine. See, I didn't actually have a family glue around the television because I only really lived with an auntie, and we didn't get a TV till I was going out and didn't really watch it. But I mean, it was going on all around me. When I saw the rehearsal of it, I got quite emotional, as if I'd written it. I mean, I knew in my heart of hearts who was who and what the book was saying, but not enough. I was too involved with it when it was written, and any criticism it had was either just rubbish or still only writing about what was on the paper. So it took something like this to happen to make me see what I was about then. Well, I mean, that's all I ever heard, didn't I? Yeah. I mean, you'd go home. Comic books. Your church. Your classic comics. Beanos. Your school. Your school, your pub, and your TV, and your radio. No, because up till then, it hadn't hit me. This is before. Pop music didn't hit me till I was 16, and this is all before the things that happened before 16. Really. Well, yeah, that was just a hangover from school, I mean, I used to make the lads laugh with that scene, talking like that, and writing poetry like that. I used to write them and just give them to friends to laugh at, and that was the end of it. So when they all go down the book, well, it turns into a book and into a play, etc., etc. But it's just my style of humour. Yeah. Well, some of them is because I was never any good at spelling all my life. I never quite got the idea of spelling. English and writing fine, but actually spelling the words. So, and also if I typed a lot of the book, And I can only do it very slowly with the finger, so the stories would be very short because I couldn't be bothered going on. And also, I'd spell it as you say it, like Latin, really, you know, or just try and do it the simplest way to get it over with, because all I'm trying to do is tell a story. And what the words is spelt like is irrelevant, really. But if they make you laugh because the word used to be spelt like that, that's great. But the thing is the story and the sound of the word. Well, when they said James Joyce, I must have come across him at school, but we hadn't done him. Like, I remember doing Shakespeare, I remember doing so-and-so, I remember doing Chaucer a bit, but or somebody like him doing funny words. I don't remember Joyce, you see, so the first thing they say, oh, he's read James Joyce, you know, so I hadn't. So the first thing I do is buy Finnegan's Wake and read a chapter, and it was great, you know, and I dug it, and I felt as though he was an old friend, but I couldn't make right through the book, you know. And so I read a chapter of Finnegan's Wake, and that was the end of it, so now I know what they're talking about. But I mean, he just didn't stop. What? Yeah. Only kids' books, you know. Alice in Wonderland. The poems were all from Jabberwocky, started me into that kick. And drawing, I started trying to draw like Ronald Searle when I was about 8. So there was Jabberwocky and Ronald Searle I was turning into by the time I was 13. You know, I was determined to be Lewis Carroll with a hint of Ronald Searle. No, I had a holiday after we'd first made it big as Beatles in Tahiti, and there was nothing else on the boat but books and Tahiti and all those islands. Great. I still got into reading. So I was writing Spaniard in the Works, and I knew I never got past the story longer than a page. So I read a whole stack of sort of the Madman's Sherlock Holmes, where you get all the stories in one, and realised that every story was the same story. So I just wrote one Shamrock Holmes after 3 weeks of Sherlock Holmes in Tahiti, and that was the end of it. Nobody, you know, it was Khaki or Kathy or Tammy, so it was all those people. But the point is that you got it, the sadness that I wrote into it. But after I'd written it, you write something, a song or anything, and you get the sadness, and then you perform it or you put it on paper, and then that's gone. And the only way you get the joy back of writing it, or the sadness back, is when somebody like Victor or somebody else comes and reads it to you, or acts it out. Or like when I first saw the rehearsal of the play, and they said these words back to me, and I got the sadness from Khaki Hargreaves like I'd never heard it before. Well, I think all the time, so, I mean, it's the same. I actually don't put it on paper so much these days. But, I mean, it goes into songs, a lot of the same energy that went into those poems. But I don't know what I actually do with the thoughts, but they come out either on film or on paper or on tape. I've just got lots of tape, which I suppose if I put onto paper, it'd be a book. But it's just a matter of, do I want to make those tapes into paper or make the tapes into records? It does now. In the old days, I used to think songwriting was this, you know, and I love you and you love me, and my writing was something else, you know, even if I didn't think of it quite like that. But then I just realised through Dylan and other people, Bob Dylan, not Thomas, that it is the same thing, you know. That's why I didn't realise, being so naive, that you know, you don't write pop songs and then you do that and then you do that. That everything you do is the same thing, so do it the same way. But sometimes I'll write lyrics to a song first, and then I'll get the same feeling as Khaki Hargreaves or a poem, and then write the music to it after. So then it's a poem sung. But some of the time, sometimes the tune comes, and then you just put suitable words to fit the tune. If the tune's doodle-doodle-doodle, and you have shagaboo-doo-cha, you know, you have sound words then, just the sound of it. Because it is all sound. Everything's vibrations, I believe. You know, everything is sound, really, or vision. And just the difference between sound and vision I'm not quite sure about, but it's all just... Well, I'm just aware that is going on all the time, you know, like that camera's purring and those people are humming over there, and you're breathing and inhaling and he's humming and I'm talking on a So all the time this is going on like this all the time. And so I'm aware of that, really. I feel the same now, really, about organised religion, education and all those things that everybody's still laughing at. But I mean, I expressed it that way then. I don't know how I'd express it that. You know, it'd be slightly different, really. Because, I mean, I've always sort of suspected that there was a God, even when I thought I was an atheist. You know, I didn't have, just in case. But I believe it, so, I mean, I am full of compassion, but you can still sort of dislike things. I just hate things less, sort of, I can't think of the word, strenuously than I did. I know I haven't got as big a chip about it because maybe I've escaped out of it a bit. But I think all our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. You know, and I think that's what I sussed when I was 16 and 12 way down the line. But I expressed it differently all through my life. It's the same thing I'm expressing all the time, but now I can put it into that sentence that I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, you know. If anybody can put on paper what our government and the American government, etc., and the Russian, Chinese, what they are actually trying to do, you know, and what they think they're doing, I'd be very pleased to know what they think they're doing. I think they're all insane. You know, but I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. You know, that's what's insane about it. I mean, don't you agree?
I do.
It's insane, you know. It's not just a bit strange, it's just insane.
And that's the
and nobody knows. All these people in the street, and half the people watching this are going to be saying, oh, what's he saying? What's he saying? You know, that you are being run by people who are insane, and you don't know. But that's just a sort of picture of somebody who's still in it. But I mean, you do, till you actually physically get out of it. Well, Brummers driving is Brummers driving, all those jobs that people have that they don't want. And there's probably about 90% Brummers drivers watching in at the moment. Yeah. But you don't have to be a Brummers driver, you see. It depends how involved in Brummers driving you are. But Brummers driving, Paul explained at the beginning of the book, is it doesn't, you know, what does he say? He was saying, what is Brummers driving? It isn't anything. The universal sorrow just hits you about once a week now, and then you say, oh, well, and then you're back to, well, get on with it, you know, get on with it. Well, I mean, there are laughs to compensate, because if there weren't, I mean, it'd be very melancholy. And if it wasn't for us, the Stones and the Who would never have been allowed out. Amazing. These people are so bitter, all of them, and they're holding the whole thing back by their quibbling about. They're already, they're showing with what they write and how they say it, how they can never run a new scene, because they're already quibbling about, before we've even done anything, they're quibbling about who's doing what, and who's the ethnic one and who isn't. And let them go and talk to the Stones, the Who, Dylan, me, Yoko, Andy Warhol, anybody that's doing anything doesn't think like this.
I'm still more or less the same kind of theme. So there's this existence which John and you lead, which is a creative, an artistic affair, and I think also a love affair. Now, which is very heavily publicized in this world. And
it's not only heavily publicized, but both of us, you know, we just can't help talking about each other, you know, to other people. So it becomes that, you know. I mean, we're responsible too of it, I think, in a way, you know. So we're not hiding it.
I was asking you about, well, your life together with John, it being read and followed almost like a, you know, a novel in installments in the daily newspapers, like yesterday about the kid and everything at Intertel, and about you both being so aware of what you actually are doing. And now the question was, do you somehow try to lead an exemplary life, not in the moral sense, but in the way of tracing new ways of living, which might be followed by others?
Well, you see, the thing is that, I mean, you don't fall in love by thinking that you should make an example of yourself and anything like that. We're not really concerned about that. We're just two people who are so sort of, we can't hide things, you know. We can't help it. And the things that, I mean, the thing that happened to us, which is that we met, you know, which is really like a miracle in a way, because, I mean, I come from Tokyo and all that, you know. Just if we weren't doing anything in the way of work, you know. I mean, John being in Beatle and I being, well, whatever, you know. We would never have met, you know, because I was in Tokyo.
How did you actually meet?
first he came to this Indica Gallery show that I had of my sculptures and paintings.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was almost like a Zen meeting, you know. It was really funny, yes, because I didn't know about that. He just climbed up a ladder.
Mm-hmm.
There was a piece called Ceiling Painting.
Yeah.
And there's a painting on the ceiling, you see.
Yeah.
And my idea was for people to climb up a long, long ladder, just go on climbing up like this, you know, and then finally reaching the ceiling, and you look at the painting, and it says yes, you know. And the Indica Gallery wasn't so high, so the ceiling wasn't so high, but still it was that piece, you see. You had to climb up the ladder, and you see it with a magnifying glass, you know, tiny little letters saying yes.
Yeah.
And that's the first piece he saw.
Yeah.
And he says now that if that said no instead of yes, you know, he wouldn't bother to see the show anymore. But that yes was like an answer to him, you see.
Before he even asked the question.
Before even he met me, he hasn't met me yet, you know. It was just that, you know.
Yeah.
So he went because he has this very rebellious attitude towards artists too, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so art world, you know, art world is an establishment too, you see. So he's not impressed with art world or anything. He said art world, you know, that attitude, cynical attitude. But his cynicism disappeared when it said yes, and he thought it was nice, you know. Yeah. So, and then he came downstairs, and I was there, and then the gallery owner just told me, you know, this man wants to hammer a nail in your hammer nailing piece, which is a piece of painting where you hammer nail in, you see. And I didn't want him to do it because it was so white and so beautiful. And it was still a virgin painting, you see. Nobody hammered a nail in yet, you see. Yeah. So I said, no, I don't want him to do that. And especially it was before the opening. And I said, after the opening maybe, but not now, you know. And the gallery owner said, oh no, let him do it, no. So I said, all right, if he pays 5 shillings, it's okay, you know. Because I decided that because my painting will never sell anyway, so that anybody who wants to hammer a nail painting should pay 5 shillings. Yeah. So each nail would be 5 shillings, you know.
Did you actually know he was John Lennon, or you hadn't realized?
No, I didn't know.
No, and it wouldn't have meant anything to you.
No, not really, you know. Yeah. And then, so I said that 5 shillings, but I think John probably didn't have 5 shillings because he never carries money in those days, you know. So he said, instead of paying you 5 shillings, may I just hammer an imaginary nail in, you know? And I thought, oh, that's beautiful idea. And all my instructions were becoming, my painting and sculpture instructions were becoming imaginary, you know. Yes. So I thought, oh, this is another person who thinks like me, you know, in that sense. And so I said, oh, yes, that's all right, you know. And after he left, you see, there was an art student who was helping my show. There were many art students helping my show. Yeah. And one of them said, I think that's John Lennon. So I said, who's John Lennon? He said, do you know the Beatles, you know? And so I said, yes, I do, you know. And he said, he's one of them, you know. Yeah. But I didn't quite understand it then, you know. But I had a very good feeling because in every show, every day, I was doing an event there, sort of like a happening. But my happenings are very quiet, you know, like Flax's type thing, you see. So the event of that day, probably the gallery owner was saying, oh, Yoko Ono is going to do her cut piece or something, you know. And so everybody expected some fantastic happening, you know, where a girl would become nude or something, you see. Yeah. But whenever they asked me, what is the event today, where is the event happening, you know, I just produced a little card, and in the middle of it, just a tiny little sign saying, breathe. you know.
Yeah, I
Yes. So I just showed it to him and say, this is today's event. So he went like that. He said, do you do that way?
Yeah.
So I said, yes, that's all right. That's,
Yeah.
you know, okay. And that's how we met, you see.
I see. I'm not going to ask you a question about this. I'm going to sum up a few words which I picked up in the last 20 minutes. John was saying, I was asking him something about revolution, and he said, at a certain moment, I'm with Jesus. You have dropped words like, it was like a Zen moment, and the word vibrations, and purity in art. I don't see how to make a question out of that, but maybe there's an answer.
I don't know. Well, you know, we're just doing our things, you know, without really intending to make an example or anything like that. But at the same time, of course, you know, we have this awareness that we're hoping that our good vibration, if we do have good vibrations, we have bad vibrations too, but, you know, would sort of communicate, you know.
Yeah.
Because we're basically artists who are interested in communication.
Yeah.
And this is the age of instant communication, you know. And communication equals art, you know, is art, you know. And art is communication. Whereas some poets still believe in just scribbling, writing, and stacking his poems in the closet or something. But we don't believe in that, you see. So I really think, you know, the medium is a message thing, you know. And so in that sense, I think we are aware of that, you know, aware of the fact that we're communicating. But not specially, you know, not as special people, because I think whatever anybody does, even a milkman or anybody around, you know, in the world, if they cough, you know, or even sneeze, you know, it's going to affect the whole world, you know.
Elaborate.
Yes, yes. I mean, really, because anything that, even a tiny bit of thing that you do, you know, because we're all together, you see, in the whole world, yes.
That would paralyze me, because anything I would do I would be crushed by the responsibility that anything I do is endlessly meaningful and has endless consequences. There must be some things that are more meaningful than others, some important things.
No, I don't think so. I think you don't have to feel overburdened with responsibility or anything. It's just that it's just a fact, you know. It's like the fact that there's air, you know, and air is connected everywhere, you know. In other words, Tokyo and London is connected with air. That's a fact, you know. And there's no responsibility or anything about that, you know. Just like that, we're all connected, you know.
I feel some decisions are more momentous. I think about them longer than others. So do you, probably.
Well, you know, we're not people who sort of depend our lives on decisions, you know. We're more intuitive, you understand, sort of intuitive people, and more sort of maybe essential physical people, you know. So things happen, you know, not that we decide to do things, you know. And the most startling, amazing thing that happened to us recently was the fact that we've met, you know, and the fact that things are happening since then, you know. And so that's very good, I think, you know.
Would you like to explain what vibrations are and how you feel them?
Yes, well, you know, that again, you know, it has nothing to do with moral, you know, or literature. It's not literature or moral at all. It's just a scientific fact, like air. You know, you immediately connected the fact that we're connected. You know, you said responsibility. That's moral problem, you know. But no, I think vibration is just purely the age will come where, I mean, I bore professionalism, you know.
Yeah.
I think professionalism is finished, you know.
Yeah.
It's not the age of professionalism. And the reason why I'm doing these things in my work, all my paintings and all my sculptures are unfinished.
Yeah.
And this Two Virgins record is called Unfinished Music, you see. And that is because I want people to finish it or go on adding something to it, so the piece will always go on growing, you know.
Yeah.
Like hammer nailing piece. You have to hammer nailing, you know, and everybody comes and keeps hammer nailing, or wrapping or sculpture, which is to wrap, you know, and go on wrapping. So the sculpture would become bigger and bigger, you know, and all that. And so Two Virgins 2, I think this is not the film, but the music, the record, you know. I think either people can add some sound to it when they listen to it, you know. Play their own music with it maybe, or just finish it in your own mind, you know. Just imaginary music in your mind or something like that.
So when you say this is the end of professionalism, you mean it's the end of the professional artist?
What I mean is that everybody's an artist.
Yeah.
Everybody's God, you know. I mean, it's just that they're inhibited. So all I have to do is just knock the door, you know, once, and they open it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's becoming that kind of an instantaneous age of communication, you know. And everybody can create, really. It's just the inhibition, you know. And so when I say vibration, I mean we have energy, you know, and the energy sends out, projects a certain wave, you know, like an electric wave or sound wave, you know, and sends out energy to other people.
Yeah.
And that is vibration, you know. And the good example is telepathy, you know. I think it's going to come to an age where everybody can understand each other. Just now, you know, before this, you were talking about, you had the same idea with Nanjun Pike.
Yeah.
Yes, we all have same ideas these days, because we're like antenna, you see, and we catch other people's vibrations and ideas because it's telepathy. That's why I'm saying that everything you do affect me, because we are all together and we're all connected. Like air is connected everywhere, you know, and we're connected with the air, so that we are what you call common property, I mean, of each other in that sense. And our mind is common property, you know. In other words, whatever I think, you know, is not original. It's just something that I catch with my antenna. You know, that's how I feel. So I don't take my work so seriously in that sense, you see. I take it seriously in the sense that I really want the future to be like that. Like everybody artist, you know, being artist and being interested in peaceful, you know, creative things rather than violence, you know. And so in that sense I believe it. But I think that whatever came to me is not my talent, but just something that I caught in the air. And I'm just a kind of medium to express it, you know.
The Provost from Amsterdam, our great contribution to the international revolution, talked about a playful revolution in which I think people would stop working that hard and just groove, play. Does that appeal to you?
Yes, well, you see, what I think now is if people start to with the instructions, you know, like a sculpture instruction and all that, I'm trying to open people's mind so they can participate in art, you know. Participation of art is very important, you know. And so they would start to be interested in things like that, ridiculous things, like dance, you know. And dances may be ridiculous, you know. It's not necessary, you know. But it's beautiful, you know. And instead of going to the office by just walking, if they start to go to the office by drawing a somersault and just walking by hand, you know, something like that, things like that. It becomes humorous. Instead of fighting with each other, you make a rule that before you fight, you take off your pants, each of them.
Yeah.
You know, and that becomes a rule in the society. And then it's so funny, you know, if both of you who are fighting have no pants on. You don't fight anymore. You laugh, you know.
Yeah.
So art is humor in that sense, you know.
Yeah.
And that way people will forget about violence, I think.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a new label for you.
Yes.
I'll keep it secret.
Oh, yes, all
I'm
right.
thinking, because you say, I'm not an artist, I give instructions
Yes, yes.
for people to discover their own creativity.
Yes, yes.
So, in a way, you're teaching.
Well, I don't know. I'm saying that this is an instant communication age, you know.
Yeah.
And we are sort of instantly disposable people, you see. In other words,
Yeah.
as of now, this is maybe necessary, you know.
Yeah.
But next century, you know, we're just an immediate happening. I'm an immediate happening too, you see. It's just that, you see. So just now, I think instruction does have its place, usage, you know. But in the next stage, something else will happen probably.
And people might not even need instruction anymore.
No, you know.
Yeah.
So that I don't feel it's teaching really. I think I'm just a function that is usable in that sense at this point.
Yeah. I have another question. This whole idea of creativity has come up, say, in the West again, because people our age start feeling that we somehow made it materially, in a material sense, just like Japan did, that the immediate necessities of life are not so urgent anymore that you couldn't allow yourself to do to play again. And that somehow...
No, I don't really think so. You know, I don't think of art as something decorative, you know.
No.
I think art is functional, you know. Functional in the sense that a cup is functional for drinking, you know, and art is functional for spiritual function, you know.
Yeah.
And so, well, all right, so that's what I think, you know.
I see.
In that sense.
What I'm getting at is that maybe we forgot, the spiritual function during a time that people concentrated upon improving their material environment. Producing, and maybe
No,
that
spirit
was
is
necessary.
always there. I think even when materially we're not satisfied, we'll never be satisfied materially either, you know.
Right.
We're all gluttons, you know. Our mind is immense, you know.
Yeah.
And there's no end, no limit to our mind, you know. Maybe physically we're limited, but so our desire is limitless, you know. So that we'll never be satisfied materially. There's always a spiritual problem, even when there's a limited material situation. Yeah.
Do you feel that in Japan there has been a more continuity in maintaining some spiritual function all through the age of industrialization and development?
I don't think Japan is particular in any way, you know, in that sense. No. It's just that it's just sort of slightly different, you know, slightly different in expression, in a way of expression. But everybody in any part of the world, they all need something functional for their spirit, you know.
Shall we talk about purity and nudity and about your work on nudity?
Purity
Do you
and
like to
That's
talk
a
about
very
it?
strange title, but I don't mind. Go ahead.
Well, I was trying to phrase the question, but you're going about, you know, the idea of nudity being interesting, beautiful, even pure, everything, is very classical in European art. Yet the way you have presented it, to me sounds, I find aggression in it. I don't know where it is. What is your...
See, nudity is just a very small part of my works, you know.
Yeah.
I have very many different other works, you know. But because this is a sexually repressed society at this moment that we're living in, you know, this is a period where we still have that, that is the only hang-up that still exists and so forth. And so that whenever I do something that has anything to do with nudity, which I think just the same as anything else, just sort of on the same level, they blow it up,
Yeah.
So it communicates more, I think. So, you think of it more maybe.
So you may have chosen the subject precisely because...
No, I haven't chosen precisely because.
No.
It just happened,
Yeah.
It's just another happening that happened in my life, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, that's true, because of the choice of buttocks. Because, after all, genitals, people are somehow proud of them. But nobody is... And so, in a way, buttocks, without being so taboo as genitals, are annoying. People don't want to think about them. There's nothing to be really proud of. And so there I felt a sarcasm on your part.
Well, I thought of it mainly as a humorous thing, yes.
Yeah. But rather sarcastic, I mean.
Maybe, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know about the sarcasm, but I mean, I'm not a very cynical person, actually. No women are, really. I mean, cynicism is a man's product.
I mean, you're just talking on this. Is it all right with you, Yoko?
Yes.
I mean, you're just talking.
Yes. Well, what I was going to say was, the thing is, in art, there are certain people who believes that art belongs to the gallery and all that, and I really believe that art belongs to the street, to the people and all that, and so in that sense, artists are just as responsible, as anybody else towards the society, because it's a sort of
and just as influential,
function. Yes, so that just as I was going to say almost the same thing that John was saying right now, which was that the fact that if I become a politician, that's why I think politicians sort of useless thing for me. If I become a politician, so there's so many red tape and all that, and just to go through that, I'm just going to be killed as a person, as spiritually, as a person. So I think I'm communicating just as well and better, through my work, you see, which John is doing too. But what I mean is, I really believe, for instance, when I made the Smile film, that the smile vibration that John sends to the world, is going to change the world much more quickly and more effectively than any politicians can do. And so all the
and without them knowing it.
Right. So all the vibrations that we're sending, I always believe that that is politics, that is a quiet revolution, and I believe in that kind of quiet revolution instead of violence, And I know that these young students and all that, they're starting to get desperate now and saying, no, there's no way out. The establishment is never going to change. So we must fight, and violence to violence, But I don't believe that. I really think that the time is rolling faster and faster now, because of the very highly developed communication media, and people can communicate instantaneously, so that and another thing that's very good is that when you know something, you can never unknow it. So that you say establishment, they're never going to come through, But once you knock the door and once they open the door, they can't close it,
And the point is that the establishment doesn't really exist, and the ones that do, if it does exist, it's old people, and all the people that want to change it
are young people.
Are young, and they're going to be the establishment. Now, if they want to smash it all down and have to be labourers as well to build it up again, well, that's what they're going to get. But if they just realise that the establishment can't last forever, the only reason it has lasted forever is because the only way people have ever tried to change it is by revolution or, violent revolution. And the idea is just to move in on the scene, that's all they have to do, so they can take over the universities, do all the things that are practically feasible at the time. But not try and take over the state or smash the state or slow down the works and all that. All they've got to do is get through and change it, because they will be it.
No, but you see, the point is not to take over an institute or building, you know.
I was just saying I agree with the cities.
I know, but I mean, you know, instead of taking over the building, they have to work against or towards the mind, you know.
Yeah.
It's the mind that has to be changed, you know, not the building. Just taking over building is no good, you see. So the point is, actually everybody is really now ready to open their mind, you know. And all you have to do is really just sort of say here, you know. And the establishment, which is sort of like a symbol of ignorance, you know. But the people, there are going to be more and more people who are aware of things.
Yeah.
And statistically, because I mean, once you're aware of it, you can never not be aware of it, you know. So it goes on and on like that, you know, like an epidemic. Everybody's going to be aware of it. You see, so there are going to be fewer and fewer people who are ignorant about things.
I have a doubt here, which is, you say you have to communicate, but within communication there's power too. I mean, you give a message and somehow it's turned around. Like I was, like I said, I loved you for signing Vietnam. I was angry at you for doing the taxman thing, because I said, okay. It's
The Taxman song.
Yeah, because I thought in the end it's going to work out.
But that Taxman song was an anti-establishment tax song, where we said, if you walk the street, they'll tax your feet. If you buy all that. Now, what have you got against that?
Well, my point is
also,
it's going to be used, or it might be used to say lower taxes. And I want high taxes because I want to liberate people. Right?
okay, at the time George wrote it, and I helped him with it, we weren't aware of the whole tax scene. I'm not really aware of what goes on with the taxes. We believe that, you know, if you earn it, you may as well keep it, unless there's a communal or communist or Christian, real Christian society, that if we're going to live, while we're living in this, I protest against paying the government what I have to pay them. You know, what she was saying before is exactly what I said in Revolution, in all the versions, is that change your head.
Yes.
Now, these people that are trying to change the world can't even get on together. In fact, they can't recognize a friend, which is me, and Yoko even, because they say, oh, they've sold out, they've made it, whatever. They start attacking and biting each other's faces. And all the time, we're all pushing the same way, so we're going like that. But it's forward.
Yeah.
And if they keep doing that, that's going to kill it before it even moves. You know?
Yeah.
Only luckily it won't, you know, it won't alter me. I'll still do the same. But it's silly to bitch about each other and be trivial and not think in terms of at least the world or at least the universe, and stop thinking in terms of factories and one country.
Yes, and also money, you know, money is just a concept, you know. Actually, money is not money. Money is like an imaginary thing almost, you see. And so that why does everybody feel that people have to pay with money, you know? You can pay with a song even, you know, you understand. Then that's what he's doing. He's paying to the society with a song.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes. So that you have to understand that part. Everybody is always thinking in terms of buildings, money, anything that is material, you know. But materialism is just 20% of our existence, you know. Our life consists of mainly of the spiritual world, the mind world, you know. And that's where we live, you see. So if we want to change the world at all, then that's where we have to change, you know. Not with money and buildings.
Well, the thing is, I know how I felt when I was at college at 19 and 20, and I would have been for complete destruction. I always hoped for it anyway, just as a happening, you know, just to be able to go and loot or anything, just to destroy it. I would have done then, you know. I don't know whether I would now. I still like stealing things, you know. I don't, because I can't be bothered.
But you don't do it.
But, you know, that's how I felt then. But if there was somebody like me, I might listen. There's a chance that I might get through to 5 out of the 20 violent revolutionaries here. Because the ones that are really militant and that, they're exactly the same as the people they're against. They're creating that same situation already.
Yeah, but now, say, for example, I agree with you in most cases. For example, imagine you're black in America and you've been talking for 100 years.
Yes. Okay, I believe in reincarnation, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that helps me in an overall view of things. I believe that I've probably been black, I've probably been Jewish, I've probably been female, I've probably been a tree or anything, and that helps a lot. So a lot of sort of intellectuals reincarnation, but even so, you can make it, you know. It might be tougher physically and materialistically to make it being black and that, but you can make it, you know. And I sympathize, and I think it's terrible. I believe all the I believe it should be smashed one way or another. People's prejudice, but they won't change it really by violence. Okay, so the black power scene, you know, good luck to it, because at least it's frightening them. But it might frighten them enough to kill them and have a real war. Okay, so then if the blacks took over, all well and good. But all the blacks aren't saints. You know, it's going to be the same scene, just a different version.
You know, for instance, I believe that the situation of the women in the world is today, you know, it's like a woman is like the nigger of the world. And so that's why we understand about the Negro problem very well, maybe. But
well, we just do this real.
Yeah, okay, this real. Okay,
Yeah.
we do that for real.
Do you like
Rolling.
Okay.
Stone.
Shall we talk about money? Or
If you want, yeah.
Yeah.
Money.
Well,
You want to talk about money?
yeah, do you want to talk about money?
She said it about money.
I did say it already.
Yeah.
So what do you want me to say? I've got nothing to say about it. Well,
what's your situation?
my situation is that the other day I was told that if I wanted to buy any more or waste any more money, which I do, either waste it by giving it to relatives or friends or people that want it, always in the hope that they'll do something with it, you know, but it's like that. It doesn't work. And a few divorces, and suddenly I'm like the poorest Beatle. It's surprising. So he said, if you want to use any more money, you'll have to sell something you already have. Now, I don't care if I have no money or a lot of money, you know. I'm not out to make more money, but I'm out to break even. Now, I've earned it, the money I've got, but a lot of other people who should be nameless have carved us up in the usual way that pop stars and people are carved up. And my main concern about money, I never bother about it, only the thought that there's quite a few people sitting comfortably having done nothing but trick us to get our money, you know. And I'd sooner throw it down the drain or give it away to the fascists or the Tories or the left wing or anybody, rather than just be conned. I'm always conned, you know, because I'm straight, fairly straight. And I never realised, I thought it was sharp, you know, and I wouldn't be conned, but I've been conned all the time.
Do you get this feeling which many stars have, that you can't trust anybody?
Oh, well, you know, I trusted them all, and I don't really trust anybody, basically. But I always open myself up to them and completely straight with them. In the trust that inside them, I trust them. I trust their soul. But through this, that's why the accountant came up and said, now you've got to start selling, which is the only thing that bugs me. It's ridiculous because of the amount of money we have earned, but not that we've got. All the stories about how much we've got is a lot of lies anyway. But we've got a lot of money compared with most people, you know. But it's just the fact that being conned, you know, I'm getting used to it now.
Why don't you publish, say, the financial situation to cut off the lies?
Because it's so complicated. I even asked my accountant, couldn't I just give it all away and just keep enough to live on? And it'd be so complicated to do that, and such a ritual, and such a scene. Or why can't we set up a charitable trust for this, that, or the other? Well, you can, but in 5 years, when you've set up a business that does this and the money goes through that, and that's beyond me, you know. I can't understand it at all. I've always had no regard for money. I've always wanted it. I wanted clothes if I was a kid, or a guitar, but I only wanted certain objects. You know, or I dreamed of marrying a rich woman or something, or being a famous this. I never really, you know, money was no goal for me. Just my thing happened to earn me money, you know, and that's it.
The things that Christ said are true, hold fast now. So you can't say Christ was a flop. See, he went into the charts and out again, you know, and all the hangers-on have left, like the bandwagon climbers, which was the church and all that, who set up the big industry around the Beatles or Christ or whatever the industry is, and that's all sunk down, and they've been fighting over the gold and all that. But the records are still there, you know. I think so. I think because there's always people saying the same thing over and over again, like Christ and, I don't know, Keats or any of the really great poets or whatever, the really great whatever, Beethoven, all are saying the same thing, but they're giving their version of their experience, you know, like a primitive painter like that woman that's been having all the publicity lately, a funny smiling woman, says, this is Emily, and she paints what they call primitive painting. I mean, she had no training, she didn't start till she was 70 or 40. But she's expressing the same truth in her way, you know. So all the people are saying the same things all down the century. But I think it is getting better. And that Woodstock event in America was a massive, massive spiritual awakening in America. And a massive, massive meeting of like early Christians, if you want to call it that. But there was more people there than the whole of New York. It was the biggest living mass of youth all getting together, and another 250,000 of them trying to get there by train. And of course it was written up as a bit of a riot and that, but all that really happened was a few people got mud on them. But I heard it from people that were there, and it was a meeting of 250,000 people with peaceful intentions and wanting to change the thing non-violently. And from the messages I got from like Crosby, from Crosby, Stills and Nash, and the people that were there at Woodstock, they were saying it was the most amazing spiritual experience ever. And the Isle of Wight was too, those 250,000 people, that's the first big scene I've been to, all there. The feeling there is unbelievable. It's like when you went to church at 8, you know, because there is a feeling in most churches of spiritualness. Whatever goes on there, there's still the building was built for God in a way. So that you get that feeling in church when you're a youth. But when you go in a crowd of 250,000 people who are peaceful, you get an amazing buzz, you know, it's a big high. You know, heavy record. Have you heard Amazing Grace? Yeah. Yes. Well, you know, I think that's sort of the kind of music I like, you know, and I think Cold Turkey and Amazing Grace have the same, are moving in the same direction, you know. Yeah. I don't know what it is, you know. Like in the old days, if I thought Rain was a progression, I'm sure we do was a progression. Amazing Grace is a progression, but you couldn't name it. What is it? An instrumental of a country song, you know. But it's so beautiful, you know, and it just has... When you hear the radio and you're not listening, it's one of those that leaps out, you know. I hope Cold Turkey does that to me. I can't tell because it does it to me, because it's me. Well, I mean, do you think Cold Turkey is not understandable? Yes, I think it's pretty not understandable. Cold Turkey is like, well, I Want You isn't pretty, is it? No. God, yeah. Strawberry Fields was pretty sad. Cold Turkey is the other side, you know, like, I'm always thinking about love and peace and that, but I'm just sort of, and things like that, and it affects me that I have temperatures and colds, and I get cold turkey and sweat and strain and temperatures and colds, sweat and strain and temperatures and colds, sweat and strain and all that. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? That's a pleasure meeting you too. Well, see, originally the article was out in England, and people didn't take it out of context and took it how I said it, you know. But how it came out months later when the worldwide news came on it was when some DJ in the southern states saw the remark. This is 6 months later. I thought this is a good way of getting some publicity for myself, and that's how he did it, you know. Well, the point was the remark was something like the Beatles are bigger than
Christ these days, or whatever it was. And that was saying this was a sad state of affairs, that the kids were more aware of what Beatles said on a record than what Jesus actually said, you know. And of course there was a big palaver about it, and I went to America on a sort of dreadful tour, sort of explaining what I'd said to everyone, saying I wasn't saying this was a good thing. I was saying, look at the dance halls and look at the churches. What are we going to do about it? The fact that the children were taking more notice of pop stars than they were of Christ's words, you know. And nobody can fault me, because I'm a Christian and I'm one of Christ's biggest fans. I believe implicitly in everything that Jesus said, you know, and I try and live my life according to his rules and principles. And it's unfortunate that people got upset about this, you know, but I think they've been mistaken about it, you know. The thing was blown up out of all proportion. Now here am I saying I'm one of Christ's biggest fans now. Yeah, well, that's not news that I was sorry that people were offended by this remark, you know. The remark was made just sort of off the cuff with no particular thought about it, you know. Just a lot of churchmen around the world said this, unfortunately, seems to be the truth what he said, you know. And it's just unfortunate that that's the way things are going, you know. I'm a follower of Christ, you know, and that's it. And of course I'd like to apologize for anybody who was offended by it, but I think if they really look into the situation, they'll see that what I said wasn't meant to be offensive, nor was it offensive. The offense was that it was blown up. Well, so do I, you know, because the music goes on, and it's all for love and for God. Reality, it was like the thing I was saying about it starts with us too. When it started with me, George, Paul and Ringo, and we said, listen, man, you know, here's another field of professionalism that doesn't need any qualifications except for you've got to get down to it, you know, and want to do it. And you can make it in the terms of the world, the terms of reference they're talking about. You can make it without that pressure of the 11 plus, etc., and GC and all that. And everybody at the same time was finding that out, you know. I mean, I had my guitar, and Mick Jagger had his in London, and Eric Burden was up in Newcastle, and we were all going through the same changes at once. And we all discovered that the values didn't mean a thing, you know, and you could make it without college and education and all those things, you know. It's nice to be able to read and write, but apart from that, I never learned anything worth a damn, you know. Some people sort of discovered a new reality, and some people are still sort of confident about the future. That we too are, you know. Everybody's talking about all the way it's going and the decadence and the rest of it, but nobody's really. Not many people are noticing all the good that came out of the last 10 years, which is the moratorium and the vast gathering of people in Woodstock, which is the biggest mass of people ever gathered together for anything other than war. Before, nobody had that big an army that didn't kill somebody or have some kind of, you know, violent scene like the Romans or whatever. And even Beatle concert was more violent than that, you know, and that was just 50,000. And so the good things that came out were all this vast, peaceful movement, you know. The bully, that's the establishment, they know how to beat people up, they know how to gas them, and they have the arms and the equipment. And the mistake was made that the kids ended up playing their game of violence, you know, and they know how to be violent. They've been running it on violence for 2,000 years or a million or whatever it is, and nobody can tell me that violence is the way after all that time, you know. There must be another way, but a lot of people fell for it, and it's understandable in a way, because when the bully's actually right there, it's pretty hard to say turn the other cheek, baby. When we were in touch with the Berkeley kids during that whatever was going on, we were peacefully doing our peace demonstration in Montreal bed, and then we suddenly were connected by phone directly to them, you know, and they were saying, help us, you know, or what are we going to do? It's going to go wrong, you know. And this was some of the people that were organising it, but they were saying, well, it's out of our control and that, and what can we say, you know? And of course I haven't got any solution.
Listen, there's no park worth losing your life for. You know, I don't believe in anything else, and I don't believe there's any park or anything worth getting shot for. and you can do better by moving on to another city or going to Canada or go anywhere, and then they've got nothing to attack and nobody to point a finger at. Festival is more like it, man. You know, sing Hare Krishna or something, but don't move about if it aggravates the pig.
And don't worry if it works or not. Everything works if you believe in it.
And don't get hassled by the cops and don't play their game.
If you can't have a beautiful time there, then don't have it and stay at home in bed.
I know it's hard, you know. Christ, you know it ain't easy. You know how hard it can be, man. But it is hard. So what? Everything's hard. It's going to be hard tomorrow, and it's going to be hard the next day. So what? It's better to have it hard than not have it at all. And if those squares can sell one can of soap to the housewife, so can you.
The only way to get them to understand you is to extend your hand and really try to open their minds up and try to give your love, you know. That's the only way that they'll come around.
Entice them and con them. You know, you've got the brains and you can do it. You can make it, man. We can make it together. We can get it together. We can get it together. Now that's all.
He has been in the drug scene. It's not something you can go on and on doing, you know. It's like drink or anything. You've got to come to terms with it. You know, like too much food or too much anything. So you've got to get out of it. You're left with yourself all the time, whatever you do. You know, meditation, drugs, anything. But you've got to get down to your own God and your own temple in your head, like Donovan says, etc. And it's all down to yourself, you know. So it's like, and for peace or anything, it's all down to this relationship. To work on this relationship with Yoko is very hard, and we've got the gift of love, you know. But love is like a precious plant, you know. You can't just accept it and leave it in the cupboard or just think it's going to get on with itself, or like a pet, you know. That's Desmond. And, you've got to keep watering it, you know. You've got to really look after it. And love, you have to water and be careful of it and keep the flies off and see that it's all right and nurture it, you know. And to get a relationship between two people is the start. And then if we two can make it, maybe we can make it with you. You know, and from maybe us four, you and yours, can make it with the next four. And it's only that, there's no sort of answer. Of optimism because of the contacts I've made personally throughout the world, including yourself, you know, whether it was on seeing you on TV or whatever, knowing that there's other people around who I can get on, you know, agree with, you know, and I'm not insane, I'm not alone, you know. That's just on a personal level. And of course the Woodstock, Isle of Wight, all the mass meetings of the youth is completely positive for me. And the fact that now we're all getting to know, we're always showing our flags, you know. And when you show your flag, you're not alone, you know. It's like we no need to be a few Christian martyrs, because there's lots of us. And don't be afraid, because they do look after you, whoever's up there, you know, if you get on with it. And I'm completely positive. And when I'm negative, I've got Yoko, who is just as strong as me, and it helps, you know. And this is only the beginning. This 60s bit was just a sniff. The 60s was just waking up in the morning, you know. And we haven't even got to dinner time yet. And I can't wait, you know. I just can't wait. I'm so glad to be around. And it's just going to be great, and there's going to be more and more of us. And whatever you're thinking there, Mrs. Grundy of South Birmingham on toast, you know, you don't stand a chance. A, you're not going to be there when we're running it. And B, you're going to like it when you get less frightened of it, you know. And it's going to be wonderful, and I believe it. And of course we all get depressed and down about it. But when I'm down, or when John and Yoko's down, Desmond will be up, or somebody else will be up. There's always somebody carrying the flag and beating the drum, you know. So they, whoever they are, don't stand a chance, because they can't beat love, because all those old bits from religion and that about love being all-powerful is true, you know. And that's the bit they can't do, you know, they can't handle it.
John's Uncle Charlie Lennon is a caring, compassionate friend of Beatle fans everywhere, always ready to sit down with Beatle people and talk about the good old days with his brother Fred and young John. He is that rarest of all creatures in the phenomenal world of Beatledom, a genuine eyewitness to the formation of a legend. Here he sings an original ballad beckoning back to the first bygone days of Beatlemania in Liverpool.
The ships of the Mersey that sailed away from the shores, they have been and gone and left us, never to return no more. Oh, come back to the Mersey, to the sounds of twist and shout. We'll keep a welcome here on Merseyside, of that there is no doubt. The live bird is silent, it's got nothing to shout about. It's seen as ships come in each day, and it's seen them all go out. But now those days are over, they were the scenes of the past. Now all the live bird hears these days is the chimes of the live clock.
Geoffrey Giuliano is the author of some 30 internationally best-selling books on the Beatles, John Lennon, and other iconic musicians of the 1960s. In 2006, his book, Paint It Black, The Murder of Brian Jones, was made into a film by Stephen Woolley and Nick Powell entitled Stoned, The Wild and Wicked World of Brian Jones. It remains a cult classic and the only film bio of the Rolling Stones. Giuliano is also a veteran journalist, having written for dozens of high-profile newspapers and magazines, including The Sunday People, The Daily Mail, The News of the World, The Mail on Sunday, Playgirl, and Rolling Stone. A noted film actor, Giuliano starred in such movies as Vikingdom, Scorpion King 3, Jules Verne's The Mysterious Island, The Fifth Execution, Far Cry 3, Fire Fire Desire, among many. In addition, he hosted the long-running North American syndicated radio series, Geoffrey Giuliano's Roots of Rock, for 5 years, as well as pioneering the audiobook industry in the 1990s by authoring, narrating, and producing over 250 original, non-book-based, interview-driven productions. Giuliano's publishers included Random House, HarperCollins, Delta Entertainment, Durkin Hayes, Playaway Audio, Speechworks, and B&B Audio, among dozens more internationally. In 1998, Random House acquired his firm Tribute Audio, for which Giuliano acted as CEO and publisher for 5 years. His best-selling audiobook, That Fateful Night, True Stories of Titanic Survivors in Their Own Words, was nominated for a Grammy. In 2014, Geoffrey Giuliano founded Icon Editions and G2 Media Arts to market his updated works as well as publish new projects. As a visual artist, Geoffrey has been showing in galleries across America since 1977, garnering impressive reviews. His first professional assignment was designing several T-shirts for The Who's Pete Townsend in 1976. Geoffrey also designed and illustrated many of his original rock biographies for the biggest publishers in the world from 1984 to 2006, as well as designing for his pioneering record label, Samba Records, in the mid-1990s. From 2006 to 2011, Geoffrey was also the primary designer for the French fashion house Cotai. When Giuliano first conceived of creating his own literary imprint, Icon Editions, he became responsible for illustrating and designing 35 book covers, several hundred CDs, DVDs, as well as dozens of promotional posters, and eventually an entire collection of exclusive fashion and art. The expansive Design by Giuliano brand grew out of Geoffrey's impressive commitment to the arts and is the culmination of a lifetime's work by an extraordinarily talented and determined Renaissance man.